Hello viewers, today we have one more good old E60 in our channel which requires repair. The interesting thing is that the owner decided to bring the car far away from Belgium. Belgium I think is called, maybe I am saying it wrong, I'm not sure how to say it. So let me show you what it's all about. Okay, so this is the BMW that we're going to work today. The main customer complaint is that he for some reason left the car without coolant because I think some pipe broke down, and while he was not around the car was working, and that's why it overheated. So this means we have a bad head gasket, or even something worse like failed cylinder head, cracked cylinder head we're going to see. But just to show you, the car runs, it's a little bit loud, but I guess he doesn't have DPF or stuff like this. Actually the car looks nice. It is with the individual interior and stuff. Let's see what we have in the engine bay, because you're probably here because of that, not because of some interior. Actually it looks pretty clean. We have removed the EGR, as I can see. The engine bay looks clean. So for now, let's see what's happening here. It's with the proper coolant. I don't see anything super abnormal. There is a lot of bubbles, but probably because the car has some air inside. Because the owner keeps adding some coolant for some reason. Let's see, here we have some smoke. Oh, he's with 4 exhaust pipes. I don't see any smoke except from the injectors probably. Let me turn it off. So the plan of attack, let's call it, it's as usual on every BMW. We're going to remove the engine. We're going to inspect everything because the owner wants to take care of all the small problems of this M57s that has. The timing chains, the bearings. We're going to check the turbochargers. We're going to check pretty much everything, the injectors. And the main thing is to fix the overheating issue, which happened after this accident, let's say. Now I'm going to remove the engine. I'm going to put it on the engine stand, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to find out inside. For some reason, the RPM doesn't go fully to 0. Doesn't matter. And after a few seconds for you guys, but a little bit more for us, the engine is out of the car, as we can see. So this is how it looks like. Pretty much typical M57. The thing that I have straight away saw that is that the crankshaft damper is broken, as we can see here. And here, yeah, it's kind of dark, but I'm going to show you a little bit better tomorrow. Probably tomorrow I'm going to disassemble the whole engine. We're going to see how it looks inside. Of course, we're going to remove the cylinder head because this is the main customer complaint about overheating, because probably of the cylinder head gasket we're going to see. But yeah, pretty much basic M57 with 2 turbochargers, the smaller and the bigger one, which probably we're going to rebuild. We're going to see what we're going to do. Yeah, the car has already a bigger intercooler, so the car is going to be prepared for a little bit higher horsepower. We're going to see this. Probably we're going to do a hybrid turbochargers. Depends on the offer, but we're going to need to repair also the shocks because all of them are leaking. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit more pricey than the owner probably expected, but doesn't matter. These cars are getting older, but they are still expensive to maintain. Doesn't matter is this car or let's say this car, still the maintenance is expensive. Doesn't matter, the car is getting old. Okay, so we're in the workshop, the engine room, let's say. And for now, for what I'm seeing, for sure this engine is not a virgin. It's not the first time somebody disassembling it by all the chaotic wiring and vacuum lines and everything that is installed. Everything is just thrown in without noticing where it should go. So it looks kind of bad. The installation is not in very good condition. Most of the wiring is exposed, let's say on this plug. And actually, interestingly enough, the owner was complaining that the car is stalling out for some reason, and he was trying to figure out why. And the thing that I'm thinking that have happened is because this plug is completely broken, and when I found it, it was like that. It was not all the way in. So it was like that, and now I pushed it in just to see is it clipping, but it's not. So for sure, at least we're going to need to replace this fork somehow. And this is for controlling the pressure in the rail. So for sure, if you remove it, the car is going to stall out. So probably that was the issue with the car, which he was trying to figure out. And yeah, the whole wiring is oily everywhere, so we're going to need to do a lot of cleaning. A lot of brake cleaner is going to go in this process for sure. So there is wrong bolts everywhere around the engine, on the thermostat housing, on the wiring. For sure, a lot of people have worked on this engine and they didn't care how they're going to assemble it. I'm going to try to do my best to assemble it as it's supposed to be. Especially I'm going to replace all the vacuum lines because they are terrible. They are not the right size. So I'm going to make it look a little bit better, hopefully. A lot of things are coming out. And something interesting, I haven't seen that worn out flange for the turbo hose. As we can see, it's pitted inside, so probably it's going to be a good idea to find a new one here, because I'm not sure the O-ring is going to make a good contact now. So I'm not sure what happened here, but I can feel with my nail that there is a, how to call it, a channel. So it should be completely flat. So not sure what happened here, but we're going to figure it out. So I have removed all the vacuum lines on the installation. The installation is down there, all greasy. It's going to require a lot of cleaning and restoration. The injectors are out. This is the rail, obviously. I see that somebody have done some work on this engine, but I have no idea did they did the major service, the timing chains and the bearings. We're going to see about that. The pulleys, yeah, the pulleys are bad as the damper. So this is obvious that we're going to change it. And yeah, about the thermostat, if you have an overheating issue, it's always a good idea to replace your thermostat. Okay, so the color is out, the both turbochargers. I have observed the impellers, and actually the bigger one has some scoring. Could also battle scars. So let me see where it was. Yeah, here. As we can see here, it has some chip hit there, but we're going to check them later on. Here is the injectors. So about the valve cover, the oil separation valve is kind of old. It's 2011, so for sure we're going to replace it. Yeah, actually the engine inside looks pretty clean, but I'm pretty sure that this engine have been opened up previously, and it was not so far away. The bolts on the cylinder head looks kind of new. Also the timing chains, I'm not still sure have they installed original ones. I'm going to see when I remove everything here by the markings on the guides. But yeah, for sure there was some issue with the engine previously, because as for the M57 nerds, they're going to know that when you undo these bolts for the valve cover, this bolt here, which is holding this bridge for the vacuum pump, are always going to stay here, because the thread locker, which are they coming with, is so strong that you cannot undo other than put a lot of heat here. But as we can see, this one came out with the bolt, as we can see here, and there is no thread locker left on it. So they had some issue, probably because they don't know that this should not be disassembled ever, and now it has a little bit of edge here, and that's why probably they have put so much silicone on the brand new vacuum pump, because probably they made a mistake here about not aligning perfectly the bolt covers. That's why you never need to undo these two bolts here. Doesn't matter, I'm going to try to align it as good as possible. So now I'm going to start removing the camshafts and the timing chain cover to see what timing chains this engine has right now, and yeah, after that we're going to remove the cylinder head. Okay, so I almost completely disassembled everything. The thing that left is to undo the bolts on the cylinder head to see what is happening underneath. There is some scorings on the camshafts. For sure, I'm going to install once again the camshafts without the rollers and the hydraulic lifters to see are they straight. Because as I told you previously, this engine have been disassembled and some of the bolts were rounded up on the caps, so it was kind of hard to remove them. There is some small scorings on the journals, but nothing super drastic. The bearings, let's see, This one, they have still life in them. As we can see, there is something wrong with this one. I'm not sure where this came from, but there is some scoring. About the conrod bearings, they're pretty much getting a little bit darker than the new ones. So the new ones are a little bit brighter. So pretty much the first layer is almost gone. So the bearings, the main bearings, as we can see once again on the axial bearing, there is some scoring here. This one has some deeper wear on this spot. This have seen some encounter on this line. Pretty much, I mean, this engine was going to run. It was going to run if the owner didn't overheat it. It has some life in it. Interestingly enough, I was not expecting it, but this is the original timing chains by judging from the timing guides. Let me show you. So this is 05, which means this guide is from 205th year. So it's pretty much the original guide as each of them. I have checked all of them. Let me show you the tensioner. So yeah, underneath you can see 005, as we can see. So pretty much this should be the original tensioner as everything. But yeah, the chains and stuff looks pretty clean. Probably they clean it somehow, but everything is the original one. It was really interesting because these engines on this age, usually it cannot last so long with the original timing chains, but I guess this managed to do it. And pretty obviously this gasket, cylinder head gasket, is not the original one, it's replaced because it looks pretty fresh. Yeah, it's with the 2 dots. Originally they came with the 2 dots, they just used the same thickness. Let me show you the crankshaft pulley once again, a little bit better whitening with the cracks. So for the people that don't know, if you run pulleys like this for a really long period of time, this can lead to premature wear of the main bearings because of the vibration, because the damper is not consuming all the vibration on the engine, and that's why you're going to beat up a little bit more than usual the main bearings because of that. That's why it's always a good idea to replace this. Let's say on 200,000 kilometers, something like that, is a good idea to replace it. The camshaft caps, they have some scoring on some of them. It's usually a good idea to install all the rollers and the hydraulic lifters on the same place as you remove them. That's why I have placed them like that. After that, to place them on the same location that I have removed them. So the bolts are undone. So let's give it a try and see how easy it's going to get out. So let's give it a try. Okay. This engine stand is really tall and it's kind of hard to take it out. Here it is. First glance, I don't see any breakdown in the gasket or something like that. All the sealing between, actually here is missing some material, but yeah, it's left here. So I'm going to try to see, am I going to see something bad? But for now it doesn't look so bad. I'm going to measure, is there some warpage on the cylinder head and on the cylinder block, and if I see something abnormal, I'm going to take the camera and show you. But this is how all the pistons are looking like. Actually, I'm going to remove them because we saw that I have removed the crankshaft and all the bearing caps and the main bearing, so I just need to press down the pistons and actually press them up because they need to go through the top. I'm going to see, am I going to see something bad in the cylinder walls? But yeah, for now it looks nice. I'm pretty sure that they have done something because the cylinder block looks that is decked. It's too clean to be the OEM, and yeah, for sure it's been decked because the original decking looks different than this. I have removed all the pistons. Yeah, this engine has seen some major repair because the piston rings, I'm still not 100% sure about the pistons, but the piston rings at least are brand new. And I have looked inside the cylinders. Let me show you. I can see that this engine have been rehoned. So previously, the previous shop which have done this engine have rehoned the cylinders, and they have decided to install a new piston rings, which I have done previously, which is of course not a bad idea. I prefer to use the original piston rings, but aftermarket ones probably going to work out also, except if they haven't bought the original ones, but I'm not sure about it still. But in the perfect case, you can rehome your engine and use the original piston rings. I mean brand new ones, but they're kind of expensive. But if it was my engine, I was only going to rehome it and use the original piston rings, which I have removed. There is some small scorings, as you can see here, but nothing that my fingernail going to feel. I have checked for some cracks in the cylinders, but I cannot see anything. The only pistons that I see that it has probably a bad fueling was on cylinder number 5 and 6, because it was kind of bad markings on the crowns on the pistons. They have much more deposits than the other ones. So as we can see here, it has much more deposits than let's see, this one is cleaner. So yeah, for sure 5 and 6 probably going to have some issues with the injectors. Yeah, I don't see any issue with the cylinder head gasket. It looks in good condition. I have measured the cylinder head deck and the cylinder head. There is some warpage around 0.05 on the, actually the block is much more straighter, but it has small warpage, so I'm going to send it just to play it safe on the machine shop as the cylinder head. We're going to pressure test it, of course, but the biggest warpage was here and here when I measure it with the straight edge. By the straight edge I mean with this. So the biggest warpage was here and here, but still it's not so crazy. It's only 0.05 millimeters. Usually the spec which BMW claims is 0.1 millimeters, which is extreme in my opinion, but this is what the spec BMW claims that it should be. So if you measure with a straight edge through the longer surface of the cylinder head, the spec is 0.1 millimeter, and if you measure it like that on the width, it should be 0.05. Still we have 0.05 here, but still the car has issue with overheating and excessive pressure in the cooling system. That's why we're going to pressure test the cylinder head to see what is happening, because once again I don't see any issues with the cylinder head. I don't see any breakage, or yeah, except here. But as I told you, I have seen that here is the biggest warpage. So probably here is the issue, but as we can see, the gasket is still in one piece. So it's possible here is to be the problem, somewhere here or here, let's see. Now we're going to see, are we going to see any major issue with the cylinder head, but probably only with redecking the cylinder block and the cylinder head and installing a new gasket, probably we're going to fix the issue. I'm checking the camshafts, are they bended, because as you guys know, these camshafts are hollow, and if the engine has some timing chain failure or something like that, they usually bend up because of the heat of the valves through the pistons, which is possible on this engine because as we can see previously it was opened. Doesn't matter, the guides are old, probably they changed only the chains, I have seen that. So by rotating it, if the camshaft is bended, you're going to feel a resistance through the 360 rotation phase. This feels kind of good, except when I go, if you see these lobes here, I see a small resistance here compared with the rest of the rotation. So when I get here, I feel small resistance, but nothing crazy. I mean, I don't think these camshafts are going to require straightening. Now I'm going to check the other one, and after that we're going to compare it with a stand to see how much they are curved, just to show you the comparison. So just to show you the other one, it rotates much more smoother. So this should be perfectly straight. So only this one, the intake one, has probably some small amount of curvature, but let's see with the dial gauge indicator. Okay, so let's see. As we can see, it's perfectly straight. I'm going to try on one more bearing journal. As we can see, it's perfectly straight. I am measuring pretty much on the both ends of the camshaft, so to be sure that there is no curvature. So this is the exhaust one. Let's see the intake one, because the intake one had small resistance when I was rotating it. Once again, not something crazy, I have seen much more worse than this. For those of you that want, I am selling this stands, let's call it, for measuring camshafts and crankshafts. You can measure both of them. Mine is kind of clumsy, But even like that, it's doing its job. The one that I'm selling is much more stiffer here, so don't worry, but you can even weld it if you want. So enough advertising. Let's see how is this one. So let's see, are we going to find something better than this? Actually, it looks perfectly straight. Let's try on the other side. Here. Yeah, it has, as I told you, you can see that it moves a little bit. At exactly that point. You guys hopefully are seeing it. So it has small amount of curve on this zone of the camshaft, but once again it's only 100 of the millimeter. But to this end is, as you can see, I'm measuring here, pretty much closer to the middle. It's perfectly straight. So yeah, I think this camshaft is going to be all fine. 100 of the millimeter is not going to cause any issues, even in a long run. So yeah, we're going to assemble it to this camshaft. I doubt that this car have broken up the timing chains. Usually if you broke down the timing chain, you're going to have some marking on this. Take it here. On these places, you're going to have some damage also on this. But this timing chain car looks all fine. So I don't see any markings from a broken timing chain. So oddly enough, one of the rarest M57s that haven't been with a broken timing chain. Lately I opened up only M57s which had that issues previously. So yeah, now I'm going to send the cylinder block, which is going to be redecked, also the cylinder head, which firstly going to be rechecked for cracks. I have ordered a lot of parts about this engine. The owner wants to do it as good as possible, so everything's going to be OEM, the bearings, the timing components, pretty much all the gaskets. We're going to check the turbochargers, of course, and the injectors. So a lot of money going to be spent on this engine, but if you want to do it as good as possible, this is the way to go. I know these cars are getting old and some people are going to say that it's crazy to spend so much money on them, but still these cars are reliable and still comfortable. I mean, I am not judging anyone, but I'm driving E60 also and I'm spending money on it. So if you want to drive a reliable car, this is the way to go. Okay, so we're going to start working on the engine because the cylinder block is ready. They have redecked. I have cleaned it perfectly because I'm going to clean up how much they have removed. So as we can see, 0.12 millimeters, which is not small amount. Plus on the cylinder head, how much it was? 0.11. So yeah, roughly 0.23, not roughly, exactly 0.23 in total. Deckness is going to be removed. We're going to use the thickest cylinder head gasket, of course. So the engine head, strangely enough, one bended valve, and as on every BMW, all the exhaust guides were bad, so they are replaced. So all the valves are rebedded to their beds, and yeah, of course, new valve stem seals. We decided to install OEM one, so to be sure that there will be no issues. They are not extremely expensive, so yeah. Actually, there is a lot of OEM parts here, bearings, timing chain components, gaskets. These gaskets for the turbochargers are quite expensive, but there is a lot of parts. Yeah, this is for other engine, but they are mixed with this engine parts. So yeah, right now we're checking the turbochargers, but we already find an issue. The bigger turbocharger were cracked. Probably that's why we have a burn spots here, because of the exhaust housing crackage. I'm going to show you when I take it back how bad it is. And the other interesting fact on this engine is, it turns out that all the injectors which were installed on the engine was from 231 horsepower. So they aimed at 0.70. I'm going to show you the part number. So this engine had the wrong injectors, the smaller ones, which means the car was going to run pretty good on lower and mid-range RPMs, but on higher RPMs it was going to feel really bad. I mean, the power output is going to be really bad. So now, right now, we are rebuilding the injectors, not me, the guy that I'm working on the injector systems. So we're going to replace all the nozzles with the proper size ones. And hopefully the fuel is going to be sufficient now. And actually the owner wants to install the Air 90 high pressure fuel pump, because right now he's running the Air 70. So right now this is his pump. Let me show you. He's running the Air 70, as we can see here. So we're going to install Air 90 now. Actually I have bought a second-hand bigger turbocharger, because the smaller one was okay, but the bigger one was cracked. So I bought a second-hand bigger turbocharger, which we're going to rebuild like this one. Yeah, this is from M57, but the process is going to be the same. This actually is from M47, which is hybrid with bigger impeller, but the owner decided to go with the OEM impellers, so we're going to use the OEM size turbochargers, because this repair is going to get really expensive with all the parts. Previous shop did a really bad job of doing the repair of this engine. They have assembled it as it is for selling or something like that, because a lot of parts were compromised. There is few threads which are broken. It's a lot of silicone, like the vacuum pump which I showed you earlier. So little by little I'm going to start assembling everything. Now I'm going to install the crankshaft with the new main bearings, and I'm going to show you what is the clearance. The new bearings are installed, the main bearings, and I have checked the clearance. So let me show you. Just a brief explanation. I'm using only yellow bearings. I have a video about what bearings you should use. So from BMW manual, you should use always yellow bearings on the cylinder box side when changing the bearings. And on the cups, you should use the ones which are labeled on the crankshaft. By labeled, I mean there is some coloring on the crankshaft, which right now I cannot rotate the crankshaft because the lower bearings are dry. So I'm not going to rotate it, but later I'm going to show you the yellow marking that this crankshaft have. As we can see, the color here, and on the axial one, you can clearly see the yellow marking. So all the bearings on the cups and on the cylinder block are yellow. This is how it looks like. Pretty much all identical markings with small amount of difference, but let me show you. Pretty much all of them have around 0.38 or a little bit less. Yeah, a little bit less than 0.38, so 0.40. Here is again 38. This is a little bit closer to 0.25. This is also a little bit smaller than 0.038. This is 0.038. Pretty much all of them look fine. Again, for checking the clearance, from recommendation from the manual, you should use the old bolts, and the torque spec on this engine 286 version of M57, which is the later version of M57. First 25 Nm, after that 50 Nm, and at the end 90 degrees. After that there are a few more steps. You need to undo the bolts, and once again you need to tighten them to 25 Nm first time, after that 50 Nm, and at the end 2 times 60 degrees. So it's kind of time involving to do the torquing, especially now because I'm going to do it second time, because I first wanted to check the clearance, and now I'm going to remove the crankshaft, going to loop up with the assembly loop all the bearings, and finally tighten it up with the brand new bolts, which are with the Torx head type. I haven't removed one, but this is the part number, which actually N57 is also using, not only M57. I'm going to clean the plastic gauge. It's not big a deal if you leave it, but I like to clean it. Okay, so everything tightened up and torqued to spec, as we can see with the new bolts. The only thing that is left is to check the axial play, for which I'm installing the dial gauge indicator. So let's see how much it is. So as we can see, we're around 94. So I'm going to push it on the other side. So this is around 6, so 94, so around 12. So let's do it one more time. Yeah, around 12, which is perfectly fine. So yeah, I'm just pushing on the counterweights like that. Is secure, guys, don't worry. It's not a Swiss clock or something like that. You're not going to damage anything like that, checking the axial play, doing it like that. So yeah, I think everything's going to be fine. Everything is torqued. The next step is to continue with the installation of the conrods with the pistons, of course, which I'm hiding here. Everything is here. I'm just probably going to clean up a little bit the piston ring grooves, but they're not so bad as I told you, because these have been changed, so that's why they're not so bad. They don't require a lot of cleaning. So after installing the main bearings, just make sure that the crankshaft is moving freely, as it's supposed to be, without any points that it makes some unusual resistance, but this is pretty obvious. So now is the time to install the conrods with the pistons. I have changed all the bearings. This is the original bearings from BMW. The sputter bearing goes on the conrod and it's marked with blue, as we can see the blue marking. So let me show you one more here. Hopefully you're going to be able to see it. Bearings which goes on the cap, doesn't have any color markings. So this is how you can distinguish them, except the part number, of course, because they are different part number. Obviously, this is the numbers 425 and 426. So now I'm going to install them. Of course, I'm going to measure once again with the plastic gauge what is the clearance before completely tightening them up. This is the old bolts. I'm going to use the old bolts of the conrods to see what is the clearance, and after I check it that everything is okay, I'm going to use the new bolts for the conrods for the final torque and installation. Okay, so I have measured all the bearing clearances on the conrod bearings, and I have just left the last two ones to show you the clearance on the bearings. Pretty much they're all the same. So let me show you. Around 0.038, number 4, number 3, somewhere around that. Once again, on some it was a little bit smaller clearance, around 0.030 or something like that, but pretty much in the range of 0.030 to 0.040 is the clearances of all the 6 conrod journals. And let me show you what is the spec. So crankshaft bearings, crankshaft and bearings, radial conrod bearing play from 0.01 to 0.05. I think this is extremely low, so if it was something like that I was going to be kind of cautious, but in our case it's somewhere in the middle, so I think this is going to be all fine. Now I'm going to install everything back together with the assembly loop, which this is what I'm using lately, Lucas Oil assembly loop, with new bolts. So this is the new bolts. Here is all the old bolts which I have used to check all the clearances of the conrod bearings. So yeah, pretty much the bottom end is pretty much assembled. And now I'm going to tighten up this bolt, the last two bolts. The torque spec for the conrods is 20 Nm plus 70 degrees, as on M57. After that we're going to continue with the installation of the cylinder head, for which I have bought original OEM gasket. So let me show you. So yeah, I have bought original BMW gasket for the timing chain cover, plus for the cylinder head. So this is the part number. So yeah, I don't want to risk it, because lately the aftermarket cylinder head gaskets has a lot of issues. Pretty much I'm ready to install the cylinder head. I have cleaned up for the last time the deck with the brake cleaner, and now I'm going to install the dowel pins which are going to guide the cylinder head in place. I always buy this when doing a cylinder head. They are so inexpensive, so I always prefer to put new ones, new OEM bolts for the cylinder head and the gasket which I showed you earlier. This is the thickest cylinder head with 3 dots, because this engine have been done once and we have done it twice now. So we have been redecked at least 2 times the cylinder block and at least 2 times the cylinder head. So for sure I want to go with the thickest cylinder head that is available, so to play it safe. And now I'm going to install everything. Actually, I forget to show you earlier, because I was talking about it but I didn't show it. So let me show you. I was talking about the colors on the crankshaft, from which you can identify what bearings you should install. Okay, so as we can see, the yellow dot here, also here, where I saw it also. This is really strange with this crankshaft, so how after ages these dots are disappearing and it's kind of hard to know what to install. But most of the time, if you install yellow bearings, you're going to be safe. Yeah, you can see it also here. The yellow dot here and the yellow dot here. And here is just a little bit left. So yeah, most of the time is yellow bearings. There is a little bit of yellow here also. So just wanted to show you that. So now I'm going to install the head and I'm going to continue when I'm done with it, because I have really detailed videos about rebuilding an engine like this, and I don't know, I don't want to do it 100 million times the same video. I'm just briefly going through what I'm encountering when assembling an engine like this. Probably it's going to be interesting for some of you guys, probably for some of you going to be annoyed, but this is it, this is my content. So some update, I have installed the oil pump, the timing chains, almost all the timing chains, because I need to reinstall now the timing chain cover. So to proceed with the timing chain for the camshafts, which is here with the both tensioners, everything is OEM. Yeah, this camshaft gear also. Yeah, the owner decided to go with R90 high pressure fuel pump, which can be seen here. And about the injectors, it turns out that the owner was running nozzles from 231 horsepower. We were suspicious because when we started checking the injectors, we saw that on the piezo element it states 0.70, as we can see here. Hopefully you guys are going to see it. 0.70. And these piezo injectors is usually installed on 231 horsepower. And we were thinking that probably they have used the piezo of the 231, but they have installed the bigger nozzle. But it turns out that no, they were running the smaller nozzle for 231. So for sure this engine was struggling on higher RPMs because it didn't have sufficient fuel supply. Probably that's why later on I'm going to show you the issue that we found on the turbocharger, the bigger turbocharger. I haven't seen that butt of turbocharger in a while. I'm going to show you to you what I mean when it came back from the shop, the turbo repair shop. But now, because actually we had 4 bad piezo elements, which the diesel shop which is repairing in nozzles changed, so we have 4 in total replaced, and 6 new nozzles from 286 horsepower, which match the yeah, here they have removed the number here because still the piezo element is from 231 horsepower, but the nozzle it's the bigger one from 286 horsepower. But pretty much right now all of them are matching the 0.77 spec, which is installed on 235 horsepower and on 286. So yeah, completely rebuilt injectors. We have the spec here that everything is exactly where it's supposed to be, with codes which I need to put when we start up the car. It's really interesting how the owner drive the car with these small nozzles, and yet he told me that he pushed the car a lot, and for sure now he's going to see a big difference, especially with the repaired big turbocharger and the bigger fuel nozzles. I'm pretty sure that there should be a big significant difference than before, because running it with 231 horsepower for sure is going to have a lot of low and probably mid-range torque, but on higher RPMs the car is going to fall down completely on its belly. Some people are doing this, the car is going to run, yes, the car actually ran good, except that it was overheating, but it was running good and smooth, but on higher RPMs for sure it was struggling a lot. I didn't drive it on higher RPMs because of the issue, but yeah, now I'm going to continue with the rest of the assembly of the timing chains. I need to install the flywheel, for which I have bought new bolts somewhere here. So this is the new bolts, there should be more. And to be able to walk up the crankshaft, of course, on top dead center, on first cylinder, pretty much I have cleaned everything. The oil filter housing, the timing chain cover, the open, even the valve cover, everything is cleaned up and ready to be reassembled. I just wanted to share you that it's bizarre how people are repairing engines and putting something like this. I guess they just took what they have in their hand and installed it. And pretty much the timing components are assembled. As we can see, the gear, the only thing that left is to install the last bolt here, which is this one, but I can do it later. Just show the timing. So the camshafts, the intake and the exhaust one, should be pointing to the exhaust side on the cylinder number 1. The lobes I'm talking about should be pointing to the exhaust manifold side as we are here, and if we install the block, it should be perfectly flat on the both surfaces on the cylinder head on both sides, as we can see here and here. And the crankshaft, as you can see, the tool is inside the timing hole, which means we are at top dead center on cylinder number 1. So the engine is perfectly timed. I have installed everything, the both plugs for the, which also are holding the timing guides for the camshaft chain. If I need to tighten up this knot for the high pressure fuel pump, which should be torqued to 70 Nm meters. Yeah, the timing cover, the bolts on the side are 50 Nm meters, all this around, and this one on the top 22. And don't forget the bolt which is hidden behind this timing chain guide, which everybody forgot. The torque spec for the camshafts is 8 Nm meters. I have used a new bolts. I have changed actually a few hydraulic lifters. I think they were 3 which I didn't like, so I decided to change them. They are not so expensive. And as we can see, I have marked the cylinder head bolts because they require rotation when tightening them up. Pretty much the picky job is done. Now I'm going to proceed with the installing of the open and the valve cover plus the injectors and so on. I just wanted to show you how everything looks like when assembled. Actually, we have both OEM water pump, OEM thermostat housing, OEM damper. Okay, so now let's install the front crankshaft seal. I decided to take OEM one just to be sure that we're not going to have any issues with it. So I'm going to use my tool to install it. It's pretty straightforward. This plastic thing is to aim the seal on the crankshaft. Without it, usually you're going to damage the seal or sealing part. So it's pretty simple. I'm just putting it like that because it has a cone. So as you can see, it is straight everywhere. So now I'm putting it like that. After that, I'm going to push it with this like that. Actually, you can remove now this black part, but it's not big of a deal if you leave it. So I'm going to use 2 bolts to install it. And it's that simple. Let me show you. As you can see, no bends anywhere. Let's say I'm not trying to sell you this tool, but I'm showing you that it makes the jobs much more easier. So if you want to support the channel, you can watch it I'm going to put a link below, but yeah, I think you can figure out something else. But during the years, this has saved me so much money about rebuying these seals and struggle with it, because it's pretty much 1 minute job with this tool. The OEM water pump installed. As you can see, BMW. I have installed open valve cover with the injectors. Injectors are from 1 to 6 because, as I told you, they have codes and I need to apply them after we start the engine with the diagnostic tool. I always change this. Actually, on most of the cylinder heads there are some fittings where this flange lies. So that's why I put a little bit of silicone bead, so to be sure it's not going to leak. Doesn't matter, it's a brand new one, but when there is a pitting, there is always a risk to drip coolants from there, so that's why I have changed the gasket on the oil filter housing plus the cooler. Tails, yeah, I have installed the exhaust manifold. I am preparing to install a smaller turbocharger. Actually, yeah, we took the turbochargers. This is rebuilt turbocharger with mallet parts. Plus the bigger one, here it is. This is the service that I use for rebuilding turbochargers, Turbo Cleaning Burgas. So yeah, it is rebuilt, and actually this is not the turbocharger which I have removed from the car. This is a second-hand unit, different one which we took because the original one which we removed from the car was not refurbishable. Let me show you why. So this is the one which we have removed the car. So there is a crack inside. Actually, most of these turbochargers are going to have cracks like this, but not so severe, as you can see from where it gets. Usually they're starting from there, but when it gets to this point, we need two different turbocharger, because actually it turns out that these are not anymore sealed, the hotter part of the turbocharger, and actually we have one more crack here. So that's why we decided to buy a second-hand turbocharger and rebuild it, because yeah, we didn't manage to find a new hot side of this turbocharger. So yeah, this is going to probably go to a garbage, for good or bad. So this is the one which we're going to use. Both of them are rebuilt. They are not hybrid or something like that. They are with stock impellers, but rebuilt with the high quality parts. So yeah, now I'm going to install them. We're going to change all the hoses, the supply hoses and the drain hoses. This is actually, there is some rings also which we need to replace. Yeah, I have installed the original crankshaft pulley, new bolts, torque spec 40 Nm plus 220 degrees. So yeah, pretty much everything almost is original. Yeah, this is aftermarket plus the tensioner from behind. And because the owner is going to use R90 high pressure fuel pump, we're going to need to figure out how to connect these lines, because they are different on the R70. Okay, so the both turbochargers installed, and this is supposed to be like here. Once again, rebuilt bigger and smaller turbochargers. We're going to exchange the three lines for supplying the oil of the turbocharger. This is the main line, which is distributing the oil on the smaller here and the bigger turbocharger. So this is going here, this is going here. So it's always a good idea to change these lines if you haven't changed them ever, especially this one, because if you start leaking you need to remove everything, so to be able to exchange it, because the connection is back here behind the turbocharger. These ones you can change them without removing the turbochargers, but still this one is a little bit hard. This is easy. So for reliability we change them, as this gasket and the gasket here underneath. Both rubber hoses are changed for draining the oil. Pretty much the new seals on the vacuum pump. For installing the R90 fuel pump, so I have made this flange so to be able to connect this side of the fuel, because previously it was with a banjo bolt. Here it is, I have cut it and removed it. So now I'm going to install this on the place of this bolt. So this I'm going to put a crush washer, of course, for sealing. So this goes here, and from here I'm going to put a rubber hose which connects to this line here, which previously was the banjo bolt. I'm just going to install a few holes which hopefully going to hold, because as we know, aftermarket hoses are not so reliable. Let me see, maybe I miscalculated. Hopefully I'm going to be able to tighten up this where there is a crusher washer. I think I'm going to be able to tighten it up. So yeah, this is the idea when installing this pump from R70, because you have banjo bolt which usually is installed underneath here, and going to R90 you're not going to be able to install the banjo bolt anymore. So that's why we're going to do this modification. When I tighten up everything and install it, I'm going to show you again, but this is like this hose which goes here is the usual one, the main supply, which comes from the filter, and this is the hoses for the small turbocharger. I have replaced all the O-rings here. They are actually the same part number, so you need 4 O-rings plus this thin O-ring is replaced, and they are ready to install to connect the bigger turbocharger with the small turbocharger, and the flange goes here also. So yeah, just wanted to show that I have replaced all the mandatory things, the supply lines, plus everything involving the drain of the oil back in the oil pan. So I highly recommend it, because if this start dripping, it's really hard to replace these things. Actually, it's not so expensive. The drain gaskets and the 2 rubber hoses are not so expensive. These hoses, the supply lines, are a little bit more expensive, but at least change this one. At least this one, because if they start leaking, you're going to have a really bad day after that. I have almost assembled everything. The only thing that left is to clean the hydraulic pump and the compressor, because they are kind of disgusting. I don't remember what I said, but we have refurbished the alternator plus the starter motor, which is dirt, which doesn't matter. I assembled a little bit too much to show you exactly, but you can see it. I have to connect the hose for the R90 pump. I have used once again this hose. I'm using burner This hose is for petrol, so it should be fine. 10 millimeters of inner diameter, and for vacuum hoses I'm using this one. Yeah, I have replaced all the vacuum lines because they were kind of bad. So all the vacuum lines along the motor are brand new. This motor takes a lot of vacuum lines because they go everywhere. From here I have plucked up the unnecessary ones, but still there is a lot of things going on under the intake manifold, so only people that have worked on this engine know what I'm talking about. I have replaced this hose because I didn't like what was the condition of it. And once again, you can see this is the return fuel line, which goes through here, goes here, and after that is connected to the high pressure fuel pump. And this is the one that we have made and connected here. So it's just straight line. I have put the hose behind the wiring, so goes behind the wiring, and after that goes through here. Yeah, right now it's serving on the core with the bracket, but after I connected somewhere here to the coolant hose, there will be some room, because right now the hose is not here, that's why it's rubbing. What else? Yeah, I have changed this plug. I have found a new plug for here because the previous one was broken, as I showed you. Probably the car was stalling because of that. OEM thermostat housing installed. As we can see on this engine, the EGR is deleted. As we can see, the blanking plate here also. So it's deleted, which makes the job a little bit easier. I have replaced the bolts because they were the wrong one everywhere. So I took a certain amount of bolts. I have all the original bolts that are supposed to be installed on this engine. They are not so expensive, so I decided why not do it like that, so to look a little bit cleaner and better. If you want reliability, it's expensive. Doesn't matter. E60, F10 or G30. Doesn't matter. Still the parts are expensive. And pretty much everything assembled back together. Everything that needs to be assembled, well, is on an engine stand. From there on, now I'm going to continue with the assembly on the front axle and to be able to install it, of course, on the car, but I just wanted to show you everything completed and back in place. There is now some clearance, as we can see, between the bracket and the cooler, so it's not touching here, it's not going to rub. Yeah, the only thing that I didn't change is this for the return fuel, for the waste fuel, because it's kind of expensive and it can run like that. Everything else is a brand new. Rebuilt alternator, doesn't matter the pulley is old, but it's just a mechanical pulley, so there is no bearing inside. The both bearings which are inside the alternator are changed on the front and on the back. They are new. Yeah, probably this hose was going to be a good idea to change it for the vacuum pump because it started to tear out a little bit, but it's not big of a deal, it's just a vacuum. So I don't think it's going to make an issue in the next year or two. The owner can change it later on. It has plenty of accessibility. So yeah, pretty much this is it. So let me install it back in the car. Pretty much the engine is ready to get inside the car. I have attached the gearbox to the engine. Yeah, the torque converter is tightened up as all the bolts around the gearbox. The rebuild starter, actually there was something wrong with the starter because the starter inside was burnt out. Probably they have rotated a lot because the car didn't want it to start up because of this. I don't know, but it was completely burnt out. So it's pretty much completely rebuilt except the coil because it was working fine. I have installed new O-rings on the gearbox core here and here. The new engine bushings. Actually, previously on the car with the old bushings, this vacuum converter was completely disconnected, but I decided to connect it back again. So this goes to the vacuum supply here to this point and down there through this line here, connects to the both engine bushings. So I'm not sure why they disconnected previously, but now we're going to use this. So update, I have installed back the engine in the car. I have started it up. I didn't record it because I have plenty of videos about this. It runs good. I still need to coat the injectors with the new coats, which I'm going to do. The intake manifold is torqued to spec. Everything seems fine, except I started to install this hose, and previously I didn't saw it, but it have rubbed to one of the pulleys. In my suspect is this one down there. Probably because of the engine mountings that were bad, that's why it rubbed out here and has some other injuries here and here, but probably going to search for a second hand one. I'm going to talk with the owner. Yeah, pretty much everything assembled. The coolant is filled, the hydraulic is filled, also the engine oil. And for now, no leaks. I need to take it out for a spin. I clean up the throttle body. I'm changing all the gaskets. Actually, because this hose should be held with this bolt here, and usually you're going to have one plate from the vacuum pump to back there to hold this bolt in place, but we are missing it. That's why I bought a brand new one. It's not so expensive, but it's going to fix the hose in place. That's why now I'm going to remove this bolt and going to install the plate, and then this bolt going to have where to be tightened up, and the hose is not going to move so much. Yeah, there is also broken rubber mount here for the air filter housing, but I cannot find it right now because we are a little bit time concerned right now. But it's not big of an issue. When this bolt is installed there, it's not going to move so much. As we saw, EGR is deleted, so I'm going to install now the EGR pipe, the race pipe as they call it, the throttle body, and I'm going to try to figure out what we're going to do with this hose to be able to drive the car. I mean, it can drive it with this hose also. Previously the owner is driving it like that, but it's going to have turbo leak because it has a small hole in it, as we can see here. So it's going to have a turbo leak for sure. The shocks are changed everywhere, on the front and on the back. We are using just regular ones, not some performance or race ones. The owner wants to be more comfortable. The one thing that's going to left after that is to service the gearbox with the ZF parts. This is the rear shocks changed also. So yeah, let me finish it and I'm going to show you how it works. But for now everything looks promising. Okay, so pretty much everything assembled except the dust covers, obviously. We have serviced the gearbox, new pan with filter of course because it's integrated, new oil. I think it took around 6.8, something like that. And about this hose, as we can see, the old one, I have found a second-hand one, but it turns out that it's from E90, and this hose, lower one, it turns out that it's shorter, so I managed to find a lower hose from E60, so now it fits. But after the test drive, I saw that once again we are rubbing in the pulley. As we can see, there is some mark again from the pulley. I started looking around and it turns out that we are missing a rubber mount on this side. So this is the left side, and as we can see on the right side we have a rubber mount. So for some reason here it's missing, and I'm not sure why. But I'm going to try to find a rubber mount and we're going to install it, and hopefully that's going to prevent the rubber hose to touch the pulley again, because it's not going to last really long if this continues. And actually this hose, if you want to buy only this hose, is kind of expensive. So if you buy the whole hose, I think so around 350 euro if you want to buy it OEM one. But rather than that, everything seems fine. The car pulls good with this straight exhaust. It's kind of loud, but the sound actually is not so bad. And yeah, the owner is using a downpipe, but I think some fabricators should make some additional mount, because here it should be attached on the side of the box, I guess, but it's missing. So maybe he can figure it out from the person that have made that exhaust system. It looks decent, so probably he's going to be able to do it kind of easy. No more noise from the suspension, except actually the steering rack. It turns out that it's leaking. I cleaned it up for now. But it was leaking from the top where it's attaching the steering column, so there is some issue with the steering rack. It makes a little bit noise in the steering column. No leaks for now, everything seems dry, everything seems okay. The car has decent amount of power. I'm not sure how it was before, but for sure it's going to be much more different. I think the owner is going to see the difference. But first, yeah, I need to change this bushing on the intercooler, because I don't want to split this hose again. And after that I'm going to assemble the covers. I have cut the injectors. The car feels good, it runs smooth, so yeah, let me finish it and I'm going to show you how it sounds. So the bushing came, and as we can see there, it is installed, and now we have much bigger clearance. Actually it's not so much bigger, but the biggest point here is that the intercooler anymore is not going everywhere, because previously it was going a lot backward and forward, and now it's stuck in place and it's not going anywhere. So hopefully that's going to fix the issue with rubbing of the hose on the pulley. Actually the other mounting, it was installed wrong also, so we needed to rotate it, So yeah, this car have been butchered a lot in previous shops, neglected pretty bad, but now we bring it to life, hopefully, with everything that we have done. Yeah, there is some other things that needs to be done, but cannot do everything at once because it's kind of expensive. So yeah, for now this is it. Yeah, this is have been welded, obviously. I didn't saw that. This is how it's supposed to look like. And this is how it looks like, so probably they heated it. Yeah, as you can see the markings here. Somebody heated it here and probably break it. It's not big of a deal, but yeah. Okay, so pretty much everything assembled. I'm going to show you how it sounds, how loud it is, because as we saw, it's with straight pipe. Let me show you everything assembled. Coolant filled, hydraulic fluid, engine oil. I have cleaned the kind filter with the proper cleaning solution, and yeah, let me show you how it sounds. Okay. Oh, it's hot inside. I need to reset the services. It's kind of loud. Usually with straight pipes without any catalytic converters or DPFs, you can clearly hear the turbochargers. The car is pretty much cold. I haven't started it for several hours. So yeah, I think it sounds good. So yeah, one more E60 saved from the graveyard, let's call it. This is not a bad car actually, it has a really good interior and stuff, individual leather. I like it, but the cars are getting old and people don't see a point of investing in it. So yeah, I'm going to end up the video here. Thank you for watching guys, and see you in the next video.